School is back in session, and actually harvest has begun here on the farm as well. So this is a very busy time of year. The meandering pace of summer is sadly over, but we are looking forward to a really good school year and hopefully a good harvest. It is very busy, so I need meals that will get me in and out of the kitchen pretty quickly, and also I need leftovers so that I'm not cooking everything for every meal. Today I'm going to show you how to make a pork roast in the oven and use the drippings from that pork roast to make a gravy to go on top of our long grain white rice. You can use the gravy on top of any of our products. I'm just going to show it to you today on the long grain white rice. I've minced 4 large cloves of garlic and crushed it together with 1 heaping tablespoon of Italian seasonings, salt, and pepper to taste. Here's my pork loin. I've made several 1-inch slices in the meat. It's not all the way through, they're very small. I just want to be able to rub that garlic mixture into the pork loin. I'm taking that garlic mixture and I'm rubbing it all over the pork loin. I'm making sure to get it down in those grooves that I cut to make sure it will season the meat really well. After rubbing in the herbs and garlic, I'm going to season the meat a little bit further. I'll use a little bit of kosher salt. I say a little bit. Depending on the size of your pork loin, you might need to use a good bit because you want that meat salted well. Then I always use onion powder and garlic powder. Don't be afraid of the seasonings because they really help develop the flavor in the meat. I seasoned both sides of my pork loin and put it into a 350-degree oven where it will cook for an hour to an hour and a half until it reaches 145. The best way to keep an eye on the temperature is to put an instant read probe in there that will read digitally while it cooks. But if you don't have that, I would suggest checking it after an hour and then going from there. So I just realized I needed to clarify something. I know an hour to an hour and a half of cook time does not seem like a quick meal, and what I should have said is that there is not a lot of hands-on time while cooking this recipe. So while the meat is cooking, I can go help with homework or do whatever I need to do around the house while this is in the oven, and then when it's done I just put my sides together and we have a meal, and then I have enough meat left over for quite a few other meals during the week. While the meat is resting, I'm going to make the gravy. You can see on the pan here my pan drippings, and I'm going to, and under here as well, I'm going to scrape all of that into my black iron skillet and start making my gravy. I'm scraping all of that fat and the brown meat into the skillet. That's what I use to start the gravy. To make the pan gravy, we just need the drippings from the cooked pork. I'm using chicken stock as my liquid, and then I'm going to thicken it with all-purpose flour, and I will season it with salt and pepper and probably a few herbs. The drippings are plenty hot. I don't want it too hot because I don't want that garlic to burn. So I'm going to sprinkle my flour over that juice, and I'm going to continually stir it for about 2 minutes. This is the roux. And we want it to get a nice brown color, and we need it to cook for at least 2 to 3 minutes because we don't want the flour to taste raw. I am cooking this on medium to low heat. If it scorches, we're done. We have to start over, and we won't have a gravy with pan drippings. We would have to make it with butter. You can see it's thickening nicely because it's making that nice line through the gravy. I have warm chicken stock, and I'm pouring it a little bit at a time into that roux. I'm going to keep stirring. I don't want it to lump up, so I pour and stir, pour and stir. If the chicken stock is cold, it will make the gravy lump. Now we're going to continue to cook this and let that gravy thicken up, and then we will taste it and season. We don't want to season until the end because it's easy to get gravy too salty. Alright, so I've tasted this and it needs a little bit of salt, so I'm just going to do 2 pinches of salt, stir that in, and I'm going to add thyme. Sprinkle. Stir that in, let it cook a minute, and taste it again. We can be done here, and I am going to be getting done here because I like my gravy a little rustic with, you know, some pieces of the browning in there. If you want a completely smooth gravy, you would just pour this through a strainer into a gravy dish and you would be done. And here's our finished pork roast. I've served it beside our long grain white rice with gravy on top of both. I just made a few simple sides at the end of the cooking time for the pork roast. I made sauteed green beans and just some simple roasted carrots, and we're now ready to eat. And obviously we'll have plenty of leftovers.